Get a presentation from Michigan State University Extension. Andy and Garrett, they're going to tag team the presentation and go over deep analysis they did over this fall. And now I'm a rock star. Thanks, Ryan. They did over this summer, and they visited our city. Some housekeeping items real quick. There is a handicap accessible restroom on the main floor here at the Griswold. Our middle level, just down the stairs, we have a set of men's restrooms and women's restrooms. If you have your cell phone, usually I don't care if people keep them on, but since we're going to have a lot of insightful things tonight, please turn your cell phones off so we don't disrupt what may go on this evening. And then before I hand it off to Andy here from the Michigan State University Extension, on the screen behind me is tomorrow night's concert at the Griswold. We got the top Tom Petty tribute band coming to the Griswold. Tickets are still for sale. You can buy them online, or you can go to City Hall and buy them at the front counter, or you can buy them at the door tomorrow evening. So hopefully we see a lot of your faces tomorrow night to see a really, really good Tom Petty tribute band. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andy or Garrett. Garrett, I'm going to hand it over to Garrett.
Thank you. So just before we jump into the presentation, really quickly, we wanted to make sure that you saw the flip charts that are set up in the break refreshments area. If you had a chance to add some thoughts around the challenges and strengths that your city has related to kind of tourism or visitor development, that's great. If you haven't yet, we'll still have those up during the break as well, which will be in about an hour or so, and you'll have a chance to do that then. And then also this QR code, this takes you to the evaluation. We'll have another chance to scan this a little later in the presentation as well, but if you have a chance, feel free, save it till the end though, because it's kind of a post evaluation of kind of what you learned, so don't fill it out yet. All right, so tonight we're here to kind of go through the results of our first impressions tourism assessment that we did here in Allegan. This is a program we've done for many years with MSU Extension all over the state. So we're really happy to have the opportunity to perform this assessment for Allegan and share with you all of these great results. So MSU Extension is the organization that we both work for, and that we are kind of the people that put on this assessment. And what we really do is this message here, helping people improve their lives through an educational process that applies knowledge to critical issues, needs, and opportunities. But what that really means is that we're just the kind of branch of Michigan State University that's out in the community, kind of trying to help bring the knowledge that's created on campus out to local residents and local communities to help them improve their lives and improve their communities. So that's what we're all about, and that's what we're hopefully trying to do tonight through our First Impressions program. I just want to note that we are funded through USDA, and as a federally funded institution, all of our programs are kind of open to everybody. So just a disclaimer that we're not going to be discriminating for anybody that wants to join us here tonight. So, as Joel said, we've got myself, Garrett Ziegler, and Andy Northrup here tonight. We're two members of the MSU Extension Community Food and Environment Institute. We're two educators within that, and we both work on the tourism team that we have within MSU Extension. I'm actually based up in Grand Rapids area, and I also do a lot of work on local food systems as well as some of this local tourism development work as well. And Andy, you can tell more about yourself when I pass it off to you. So. All right, so I'm just kind of going to set the stage for Andy to go over a lot of the results with you in a little bit, but kind of wanted to give you kind of a breakdown of what we're going to talk about tonight, what we're going to go over. So this is the welcome part. We're going to go through kind of what the FIT, or First Impressions program, is all about, kind of what we do and what the purpose of the program is. Then Andy's going to jump in and give you a breakdown of all the different results and findings that we had through our assessment. We'll have that quick break. Then we'll come back and we'll go through some of the strengths and challenges and opportunities that we noticed when we were here assessing your community. We'll go through some questions and answers, hopefully talk about some next steps that your community leadership team has planned for you, and then we'll conclude for the evening. So hopefully wrap things up by 8 o'clock. So this First Impressions assessment is being funded by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, and it's part of their Redevelopment Ready Communities program. So Allegan, City of Allegan is a redevelopment ready community, which means that there's lots of things that they're working on with MEDC, but one of the perks of that is that MEDC is paying for these redevelopment ready communities to perform this first impressions assessment in partnership with MSU Extension. So the funds to support our time and effort to put on this program are being covered by MEDC, which is really great. So it's no cost to the community itself. I did want to acknowledge the folks in the room tonight from the community leadership team. So if you're one of the folks from the City of Allegan here or from one of these organizations, maybe stand up, wave your hand, say hello, let folks know that you're here. We've got a few folks here. So this is the group that originally kind of got together, submitted the application for to have this first impressions tourism assessment performed, yeah, it's kind of going to be shepherding on some of the suggestions or results or opportunities that we identified through the assessment. So if you're interested in connecting with any of those folks, definitely seek them out during the break or afterwards. So FIT, or first impressions, or as we call it FIT, you'll probably just hear me refer to it as FIT from here on out. Its purpose is really to kind of have folks come in to a community and assess as if we are, which most times we are, many of our assessment teams are, first-time visitors to a region. So we really kind of take on that. What are we what would be, if your first time you're driving into the city of Allegan, kind of what would you be looking for, what would you be seeing, and it's really important because when we're people that reside in a community, when we visit that same street or that same town every day or drive down that same road, you don't see the same things that maybe a first-time visitor would see. So that's really kind of the purpose of this assessment, is to provide that view, but then also help develop, obviously, a community leadership team within a community, and provide support for communities to kind of take these results and move forward with them. So FIT communities will obviously learn about their assets and opportunities from those first-time visitor assessors. Again, strengthen some of that community leadership through that development of a community leadership team. And we'll be providing a list of potential action items for your community improvement. And really, we've seen these results. Like I said, we've been doing these first impressions assessments for a number of years across the state. We've seen a lot of things come out of them. We've seen a lot of community leadership come out of them and be strengthened. So we're really hoping that you'll be able to take some benefit out of the results that we're going to be sharing with you this evening. So this is just kind of how we go through this process of FIT. So as Joel, the city manager, mentioned, we were here in the summer doing the actual assessment, but kind of work for this actually started much earlier in the winter, or maybe even last fall, with the city actually applying to be one of these first impression communities through the MEDC program. And then, obviously that involves development of that community leadership team. We have some initial meetings with that community leadership team to kind of go over what this program is like and how we go about doing it. We set a timetable for when we're actually going to come and do the assessment, and I think this year we were here between like mid-May to mid-June time. Late June? Yeah, yep. So kind of that like late spring, early summertime. And then now we're here at this community leadership, working with you to organize the Community Report Forum, which is what this lovely event tonight is called. And then this isn't the end of it. Obviously, we'll be providing a written report to anybody in the community that would like to see that. We'll be posting that online. And then we kind of hand things over to the community leadership team to kind of take this and move forward with it. So that's kind of how the whole process works. And just did want to mention that it's really important, and U.S. Travel Association has really shown this through research that impressions of communities are really formed through firsthand experience. So we really think that this does provide a really important view of a community by having this assessment done by people that are coming here for the first time and forming that first impression of a community through firsthand experience. So we just have a couple of disclaimers before we dive into the results with Andy here. But we wanted to point out that there's things that maybe you're seeing come up again and again through the assessment, certain aspects of that assessment that many of the assessors might have pointed out when they were here in town, that they're really really emphasizing their importance to kind of the overall assessment. So if you see things that continue to pop up, that means it's probably something that is important, and we're emphasizing that for a reason. Also, we're not really ranking or judging communities based off of other communities that we've been to. Sometimes when we're at these community report forums, we'll hear people ask, well, how did this community do that, or how we rank versus this community or that community? And really our response is that every community is different, every community has strengths, every community has weaknesses. Some have similar things, but we're not really out to say this community is better than that one or this community is better than this one. So it's really about your individual community and what is important for you to understand and to know. And we do have available on our website, if you're curious what other communities maybe have done as a result of this, just to see how they've utilized this information. We do have a 3-year report that kind of goes back and does some longer term evaluation with some of the other communities that have already done this to kind of see, okay, how have you used this? What kind of things have you implemented or changed? And how are kind of things progressing moving forward? So that is available for download on our website. And really this is, we're not here to try and turn you into the next Traverse City or the next Saugatuck, or make Allegan a booming tourism town. And I'm sure maybe some folks in this room would like to see that, but that's not really what this is all about. We really see this, a place that a first-time visitor would want to visit, or a first-time visitor enjoys their visit to, as also as a great place to live. So it's really about creating a place that people want to live, work, and play, and that's oftentimes a place that visitors are happy and excited to travel to. And obviously every community gets visitors regardless of whether or not you're a tourism destination. So people are coming here maybe to visit family or to pass through for business. So even if you're not a tourism destination, you're still getting visitors. And really this is information from new eyes. We're really not criticizing anything in this community. It's just providing information from our viewpoint. So don't feel like we're criticizing you if we notice something that maybe is a missing sign or something along those lines. We're going to save questions and answers to the end. We've got lots of results to go over, so wanting to make sure that Andy can get through that, and we'll have lots of time for questions and answers. Love for you all to complete the evaluation, and we'll be following up with everybody after with all the kind of links and things in the report. So we'll have all of that ready for you a couple days. And I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andy.
All right. Thank you. Howdy. Give it to me and I mess it up. What's the trick? Okay, can you hear me? All right. Again, come on, there it is. I'll do my best to make sure that microphone works pretty well. So, not used to the lights, but thanks for having them. So if you could turn them down a little bit, I'd appreciate it. But there we go. Thanks so much. Okay, Andy Northrup. Obviously, I work with Garrett, part of Michigan State University Extension's tourism team. We've been doing the fit assessments since officially 2017. So minus a couple years cooped up in our basements for all the reasons you all experienced too. We're back at it. Allegan's our third community since coming back into this kind of work in 2021, right? We all were sent home for a year and a half and had some times to rethink what we were doing and how we were doing it, and we established a partnership with MEDC, and here we are tonight working with the City of Allegan and all of you folks and the surrounding area of City of Allegan too. So I'm based in Port Huron. I work statewide. This is a good 3.5 hour drive for me, but I love coming across the state and seeing what other communities are doing. So I'm going to dive into the results. These results are pretty much taken from the report that is live on our website currently. That report will be shared with everybody that registered tonight, and if you are a walk-in and gave your email to the folks managing the registration table, you'll get it as well. And it will live on our website as well, along with all the other 16 communities that we've done this in. We're going to be doing a lot of head turning here. As you saw Garrett, right? We don't have a computer in front of us to see the upcoming slides, but regardless, we will proceed. So before we get into the results, it's probably on a few people's minds as to who came into your community, right? I mean, who were these people? Who were these first-time visitors? Other than Garrett and I, we were on the team making it appropriate for us to be here tonight, and there were 3 others. So you had a total of 5 visitors. 2 of those were male, Garrett and I. The other 3 were female. And we are a mix between Generation X and millennials. So everybody's in their early 30s, likely to their early 50s, give or take. Not sure how old Garrett is anymore, but anyway. So 4 of us came alone, and the 5th person came with their spouse. So in theory, you had 6 perspectives. And sometimes when we do this, we bring along our spouse if they're willing to come, and sometimes we bring our friend. But all those folks have to pay their own way, of course. But so all the assessors are Michigan residents from across the state. Nobody came down from the UP, but most people were either as far north as Manistee, Port Huron, Grand Rapids, Gaylord, and I can't remember where the 5th person was from, but Lower Peninsula, Michigan anyway. The only person that had been here before, there was one person that had been here before and spent time here, and we invited them to participate because they had a deeper knowledge of some of your outdoor recreation assets, including expertise that we wanted on this assessment in particular. So it's fair to say 4 out of 5 were first-time visitors, and the 5th person had some knowledge of your community. So we didn't come in looking like this. Although in some communities we do stand out like that. We don't come in wearing MSU jerseys and gear, but we do bring our bikes and kayaks and just our walking shoes and shorts and t-shirts, and we come in looking like pretty much everybody else on a hot July Saturday afternoon. I hope that made some people smile. That's the intention. So, the results are broken up into 3 parts. We're going to do our best to not bore you with this, and we've tried to synthesize and streamline the data so we're hitting the high points. There's a lot of data that comes out of this assessment. We're talking like 150 pages, enough to write a thesis for a master's degree or maybe even more. So taking that data and breaking it down into 3 sections. So the first section is going to be the pre-visit. So we look at your community before we even come here, as most visitors do, right? Anytime you take a vacation, you're looking at your smartphone, your laptop, your iPad, making decisions through that based on how the community presents itself in a digital format through the web. The second data set is the actual visit, so us being in the community, and then the last set, which Garrett is going to go over, because I'll lose my voice by that time in the night, is the strengths, challenges, and opportunities from our perspective. During the break, as Garrett said, there are some flip charts where all the beautiful and delicious donuts are at that we're asking people residents from Allegan to tell us and tell the city what you think are the strengths and challenges during this time of the presentation tonight. So towards the end, there'll be opportunity to share some thoughts and also get those on paper too. Up to you if you want to participate. So we're going to dive in. So as I said, we spend a lot of time on the web, right? All 5 of us are required, as one can be, to spend anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5, sometimes 6 hours researching your community, developing an agenda that shapes their visit. Of course, that agenda can change when people get into a community because things can often look a lot different than what you see on the web, and in most cases they do. So our first website, we ask our visitors what's the most helpful website when coming into a community. And the most helpful website, there's typically 2 because there's usually more than one, is the Explore Allegan website. This is considered, most of us considered it to be the most helpful for pre-visit research and planning. We felt it was nicely laid out. It highlighted the community well, but as you can see in the red is sort of the other side to this, the positives and the negatives. We try and balance it out as best we can. We found that It wasn't the easiest, and these are direct quotes from people, not the easiest to find visitor-specific information, and there was some challenges, although I'm sure that they're corrected by now, between what we identified as positively Allegan and downtown Allegan. So in general, there's this website, and then we found this website, downtown Allegan, and found, sorry, I don't know if my clicker's all that quick. We found some challenges between these two websites as which one was the preferred one and which one's the most active. And usually this happens when there's a transition from an upgraded website to another. So that was a big challenge. Moving to the downtown Allegan website, which is another most helpful website, one that people really enjoyed and used to our advantage, provided a thorough list of retail, dining, and services. So how many people visit this website in the room? How many folks have been on this website? All right, that's majority for sure. We found that the separate categories, right, simplify and eat, explore, shop, whatever else categories are up there, works well for planning trips, as you would expect. The Discover page was very good at the general orientation to the community. We felt that the current design, though, requires a lot of scrolling to get down. I believe there's several restaurants and businesses listed, so there's a lot of scrolling versus clicking through the phone and likely other devices too. That being said, though, it's quite effective. We do this program in a lot of different communities, and some communities are still operating with websites from like 1999 in some cases, 2005. So this is pretty advanced, pretty welcoming, pretty user-friendly, and that's typically what you want to see, right? In general, the most helpful websites, we have some quantitative data that we are sharing. Easy to find information, 100% agreed. So that's all 5 of us, 5 people, 100%. Web pages loaded without delay. Sometimes that's not in the domain's control, right? That's really dependent usually on Wi-Fi and connectivity, but in this case, all web pages loaded without delay. Info was well presented, majority agreed, 4 out of 5, 80%. The information was useful, web pages were appealing, although at the end, all 4 out of 5 agreed that more information is needed on those websites. And some of that information we envisioned including surrounding assets. So when we do this program, I need to back up for a second. We just come to the downtown. So this assessment isn't just the downtown of Allegan. It's not just the city. It's the city as a starting point, but also we experience what's on the periphery of the city, and in some cases, what's 10 miles down the road, because that's what visitors do, right? You might go to Traverse City for the weekend, and you may stay in Traverse City, and you may eat your dinner in Traverse City, but chances are you're going to go to the ski hill to the east, or you're going to go to the winery to the north, or you're going to go to Lake Michigan to the west, things like that. So assets also exist outside of that core peripheral downtown city limits. Just like anything, we feel it's appropriate to spend time on social media. Some do more than others. Some are better at it than others on our team, and that's why, of course, we invite them back. We visit the usual YouTube, TripAdvisor, Facebook, and we are looking at these for the same reason most of you use those services in some cases, using Facebook to look for events. Many times in other communities we've seen a more active event calendar on social media than we will see in some communities, main like Chamber of Commerce calendar. So Allegan does an excellent job of posting upcoming events. That was noticed by a couple different assessors that they were quite active with weekly events during the time of year that we were here. Using TripAdvisor, TA is TripAdvisor, to look for restaurants and reviews. How many people here use TripAdvisor? Okay, a few. So we do that just to demonstrate that this is not something, if you're a local business owner, restaurant owner, brewery owner, this is probably not something you should overlook, right? These are important things. At the same time, Some of us visit YouTube. How many people in the audience have YouTubed, if that's a verb, YouTubed the city of Allegan? Right. Usually not too many hands go up like for this one. So surprisingly, Allegan looks pretty good through YouTube. That's not always the case in some communities. But in particular, I didn't watch this video, but I wonder, you know, if Allegan is unfortunately a part of that. And if it is, maybe strive to somehow remove that from YouTube's list. Not sure the process. But overall, looks like pretty good, off the beaten path. Things to do in downtown. That's a pure Michigan video, it appears to be. Riverfront, Allegan. So things to pay attention to if you have the capacity within your local government or local businesses. But overall, the web presence, in summary, really good, we thought. Quality of info matched the town itself. Not always the case. Web info showed that Allegan is a destination, so kudos to that if that's the goal for the digital objectives. Web research gave a good impression and a desire to visit, provided a starting point and a general list of things to do. And then in general, as I kind of hit on, I think a few minutes ago, could have been more info on the surrounding area. So thinking outside just the city limits, if you're having visitors come to the downtown, perhaps promoting the Allegan State Game area or the Allegan Mountain Biking Trail, or trying to think what else was in the area. Perhaps historical museums or maybe the county fairgrounds, but highlighting that as a collective way would be our suggestion. So the second part of the results, the actual visit. So us coming here, spending X amount of hours. You had, as I said, 5 visitors. It just so happens that we were all here during the week. 1 on a Tuesday, and coincidentally 4 of us on a Thursday. We don't come together. We all come separately. Usually the spread is a little bit better than that, but Thursday is equivalent of a Friday, so we think it was a pretty active night. At least the results showed that. We visited typically between 6 to 24 hours. 3 people came for the day, and 2 of us spent the night. One of us was in a motel and one of us was in a bed and breakfast somewhere in close proximity to here. So that's how we generated the data during the window that we were here. As Garrett said earlier, we were here between, I think, shortly after Memorial Day, and the deadline was the second week of July. So what we do is we give pretty much a 6 to 7 week window for our assessors to carve out when they want to come. Pick a time frame that's convenient for them, maybe based around a festival, maybe not. Usually a question we'll get around the timeline when we're here is, well, how come you didn't come during our best festival, or why didn't you come on Saturday when everything's really, really happening in our community? And in some cases, we do that, but we also don't do that on purpose because we don't come to see when your community looks the best. Visitors come every day of the week, right? They get gas, they go to church on Sundays, they pick their kids up from school, they visit their grandparents or their parents during the week. So visitors come at all times of the week and the year for that matter. But so we try and cover a wide range of, days of the week. So we ask people, assessors, what's your first 5-minute impression of once you sort of come into the area, once you come into the Allegan area? So from pretty much the time you exit the freeway, which would be what, 131. Some people may have come in from the west or from the south, and we capture that general first 5-minute impressions. These are direct quotes. So again, if you registered, we'll be sending this out, but feel free to take pictures, and I can move if you need me to. So these are direct quotes. Excuse me. I'm not going to read all of those. Mine was the one in Vermont. I spent a lot of time in the Northeast. I really had a feeling coming in from the east as I descended down into your downtown. Really unique character, charm, reminded me of living in rural Vermont. If you've ever been out there, perhaps that may resonate with you. Others loved the social district or loved the district signs as they approached downtown. Some people felt that they were confused when they came into the downtown, into the area, due to the design of the community itself. But after parking and walking around, they thought it matched the quaint vision that they had prior to coming. Clearly tourism focused, but the trick is to getting into town and figuring out where long-term parking is allowed. So a couple people had comments that will come up later about sort of navigating where parking options are. But these are the initial first impressions. And of course, those change once you get out of the car and start walking around, which is what we want people to do. We require that they do that. So we also ask assessors the top 3 visitor motives. Like, why would people come here? So we're asking ourselves, as first-time visitors, what do we think would be the reason people would come to Allegan, right? And if you're in the room and you're part of local government, or you're part of the private sector, perhaps, in the partnership with local government and promoting Allegan in whatever shape or form, hopefully we are validating what your goal is, or perhaps future goals will be. But shopping, get entertainment, the other category, normally we don't see this much in the other category, so this is quite vibrant. These responses are pretty vibrant in my opinion. But eat downtown, meet for coffee, kayak events, breweries. I think you have, 3 breweries here, right? Is there 3? 2 breweries? Waterfront and a splash pad. So all of these things we're identifying as first-time visitors, like, wow, this is probably what people would come here for, in addition to engage in business, of course, relax, seek adventure, visit friends and family. That's a wide range of reasons that we felt people would come to this area. So if the goal is to attract people for those reasons and give them a reason to come here, I think it's fair to say you are succeeding at that. You can see some of the other categories, and we probably could expand on these eventually, and maybe we will, but that's why we have the other category, to learn what are some other possible motivations. Destination attributes. So before I jump to this, I need to explain, we have a ranking scale, and all of our assessors, the 5 of us, rank these assets, these attributes. And some of them may really apply to your community, and in some cases they may not. This is just one set of data. I'm going to share another set in a minute. But the maximum point structure is 15, so 13 is really not that bad. So we felt that the city and the community itself, the pedestrian travel infrastructure, the walkability of your community was really good. This is not always the case in Michigan. We all know Michigan was designed for cars, not necessarily walkers, but in some case, many communities have been advancing the walkability, so that infrastructure we thought was really good. Community involvement, hospitality and friendliness, customer service, safety and security. You can see you guys scored extremely high in a large percentage of the categories. We also have the other list of categories where you don't score as high, but I think it's fair to say nothing is below half, so it goes to 0. So the variety of accommodations we felt was really low, but yet there was still some accommodation here, whether it be camping or a bed and breakfast or a hotel, within, 20 minutes or something. So overall, the ranking here is pretty good. Communication infrastructure, landmarks, variety of shopping, you can see in this right column all the way up to 10. So again, the highest score is 15 and the worst score, of course, is 0. So I would say that Allegan is quite in a good spot compared to some communities. Again, we're not really comparing, I'm not naming any communities, right? But not everybody has the assets that some communities do, such as rivers and waterfronts and funding structures and state support, and capacity is a huge thing. So at the same time, we specifically rank the downtown. So this really looks, this is more This is more downtown and regional. This is specifically downtown. Same scoring applies. The maximum is 15. The minimum is 0. And the same funding structure is, so we aggregate the results and then we tally them up through an Excel format. And again, super nice scores for greenery, parking, security around parking, charges, which I don't think you had any. I think it's mostly free parking from what I recall. Hospitality, greenery, walkability, welcomingness, friendliness, lots of great scoring here from an outside visitor perspective. Handicap accessibility, and of course, these are not perfect scoring systems, but it's fair to say this is where we all felt as individual assessors at separate times, the ranking there was consensus at. The downtown business area is a major tourist draw. There's a mix of ages, so a variety of age demographics from young to retirees or older. And then the lower scores towards the end here, you can see biker-friendly signs, different ethnicities present, and bike lanes exist on the roadway. So full disclosure here, driving in tonight for my second time, I noticed your bike lane. So in all fairness, like maybe that should be higher at some point. I saw a bike lane coming in from the east off 131. Not sure how far into the community it goes, but so usually people like to look at that for a little bit longer than the minute or two I put it up there. So we can always come back to these slides too if there's specific questions at the end. So downtown impressions. With the hard quantitative data, certainly should come qualitative data. So we ask people to provide comments about the downtown. So what I did, maybe I shouldn't move. Okay. No. All right, that's good. I'm not going to go anywhere. So what I did here was try to balance positive, negative, positive, negative. That's really an orange-colored font, but tonight it's showing up as another level of green. Not my intention, so I hope you can read it quite good. But, you know, people had a lot to say about the abundance of water fountains and the filling stations. There are certainly some areas of your downtown that need some TLC, some tender loving care, and you'll find that pretty much in every downtown, I would think. Public restrooms, whoever did those and however long they've been there are awesome. We've done, 16 of these fit assessments, and it's pretty rare to find any public restrooms, let alone the ones that you guys have, that are inviting, clean, accessible, and have an ATM close by. What a brilliant that idea is. Like there's a sign on the waterfront, you know, public restrooms this way, and then the ATMs that way too. So good strategies for retaining people and inviting people and making them feel that they can come here and be comfortable here. I even think one of our assessors saw that you have sunscreen down along your waterfront, right? So it's your ideas that we'll take to other communities, Joel. I hope you don't mind, because communities will be like, well, what are they doing? I'll be like, well, go see their bathrooms, you know? Okay. Yeah, well, it's awesome. So we don't need to point out that your Allegan gateway signs are losing their paint simultaneously, but that is happening. Downtown's unique. It's a destination. Again, downtown design is a little bit confusing. Changing that is certainly not going to happen overnight, if at all, but there's certainly ways to navigate around there. Thrilled to see the river accesses downtown, and then again the social district, which looks like it's here to stay, was something that people really had a lot to say about. Although I don't think we used it to its advantage, but we know it's there, I think. So when we do this program, we ask people, what's your feeling of welcomingness? What's your feeling of safety? We also ask people, did you notice any bad or good smells and bad or good sounds? sounds funny to hear that, but a lot of communities do have certain sense that visitors will pick up that the residents don't know or have forgotten that they exist. And so, believe it or not, you know, we have multiple examples that I could get into later, but you guys, miraculously, all of us felt 100% welcomed here. So you should be proud of that because, right, Garrett? We don't see that pretty rarely. But there's a first time for everything. So we all felt welcome, safe, and secure at all times. Again, business owners were forthcoming with advice. Multiple business owners had, you know, sometimes we play a role when we come in, like, oh, we're moving here, or my wife got relocated here for a job. So we'll play up a role and engage businesses to see if they engage with us or tell us certain things or give us advice to go do. And some are better at that than others, you know. And that experience, which some of us played, was really forthcoming. We had some great experiences. Restaurants were good service. People were greeted in every business, friendly at all times. So none of us noticed any poor scents in the community or disruptive sounds like we've picked up in other communities as a first-time visitor. And certainly everybody felt safe, which is, you know, depends where you're at. Might not always be the case. So safety is really important. So the waterfront area, right? Some communities get the data on this and some don't. The communities that don't are typically the communities that don't have access to water, any water. So a community that has riverfront access like you, or access to the Great Lakes, or a river off the Great Lakes, or a pond, or an inland lake will get this sort of assessment. A community that really has no access to water that we can see will not. So we spent quite a bit of time, as you would imagine, down on your waterfront during our visits here and then in and around the area. And some people brought their kayaks. I think, Garrett, you were one that brought your kayak, and I believe somebody else did too. I brought my mountain bike. But the waterfront, we felt, was, you know, somewhere between good and excellent, as you probably can understand why. The walking trails, the boat launch, the fishing dock, the playground, the shore-based retail, public restrooms, seating options. Oh, there it is. Sunscreen dispenser, good and excellent. So, but with good and excellent, we also want to find and share, of course, the negatives of what could be better from our perspective. And it didn't come up. Improvements and needs, we thought, from, again, on the waterfront, and we're talking really pretty much right behind us here and then further along, right? More parking. That's debatable, but we put it up there anyway. Better access, kayak gear rental options is something that multiple people here thought would be useful when the time is right. Not sure right now is the appropriate time to have a kayak rental there or a paddleboard. Sounds like there's some waterfront developments coming, you know, with your dam and so forth, I think. But more kayak launch info, water condition info, really important. Those are some for a non-water person, the rapids you have out on the water can be pretty intimidating for people or young kids maybe that want to go swimming in there. More business, seeing the waterfront as their front and back door. So what that means, if you're not quite sure what we're talking about, is that, you know, up until maybe 10 years ago, cities, big and small, looked at the waterfronts as kind of a waste yard, right? Port Huron's a great example of that. Detroit, of course, too, and the mindset's changed in the last 10 years where the waterfront is your prime real estate, and hopefully it stays that way. But not all businesses are going to see and view that waterfront as an asset or an attraction. We do see a large percentage of them in your community that are seeing that, but some of our assessment team are land use planners, and they felt that some of the other businesses may be able to embrace that waterfront better. Not sure exactly what that might look like, because it looks pretty good back there already, I thought. But so historical trail info and displays, these need to be updated, and these need to be very visible because this is really cool. But what some of us found were just pieces of that trail and had a hard time finding out, well, where's the next stop? and perhaps where's the trail pick up, and can you walk to the trail, or is it a driving trail? So, so some pros and cons there for the water. So this list of assets, we want to share with you every place we went and every place we visited. So how many business owners are in the room here today? Good, nice. So if your restaurant didn't make the list, please don't be offended. We tried our best to hit everywhere within reason, and we do come in with a budget, so we're dictated by the budget that we have, of course, not necessarily by time, but so this is a list of general assets on the left column. Then you can see the list of restaurants that we visited. There's another slide of businesses that we went into. Hopefully my highlight comes up here, and that's not really going to show too well, but if you can see number 4, 5, 11, 14, 15, and 2 and 3, we ask our assessors what businesses in the community would bring you back for a second visit. So all the ones that didn't get highlighted, that doesn't mean we wouldn't come back for those, but these are the ones that stood out. So the Plaza Splash Pad, the Riverfront Park, the walking trail, the mountain bike trail, the Mill District, believe it or not, the Brewing Tantric, and Food Motivated, and then Scherendorf Brewing Company. That's what assessors felt would bring them back to Allegan. So this is pretty important information right here. Support these businesses, and all the other ones too, of course. So the same can be said on the next slide. We visited a whole slew of businesses, and some of these businesses may fall into a different category. We tried our best to box them into three themes: general assets, restaurants, and businesses. So we did the same. Hopefully the highlight stands out to you. It's a little difficult even for me to read, but we asked people what businesses might bring them back. So the Perigo Outlet Store, Horde of Dragon, Tardy's, Let It Grow, the Sassy Olive, got quite a few mentions. Baker Allegan Studios got quite a few acknowledgements. I mean, they all did. Multiple people identified these, it was single, if not multiple times. We would come back. Those businesses would bring us back, even if it's just like stop in. It doesn't mean all of us went to these businesses, but each of these businesses, restaurants, or assets was visited at least once or 5 times, because there's 5 assessors. So that being said, not all of us could go to every single asset. So we asked another question: what places or assets not visited would bring you back? So some of us weren't able to go to some of these places. We thought, if I come back to Allegan, I want to go to these places. So you got your heritage tour, the state game area, the county jail, old country jail. I don't know if it's Old Country or Old County. Is it? Did we get that right? Is it Old County? All right. We're only human, right? Old Iron Bridge, the zip line, all the breweries, and the comic book shop. So these were identified as places that we would come back to, that we were not able to visit our first time. Another important list here to remember, and these stood out to us. Hopefully, so we're getting near, close to the break time. Don't anybody go home yet. This is a hypothetical tourism life cycle model. This is called the Butler model. It's an academic, scholarly tourism model, and as our assessors are quite familiar with this type of program, Garrett and I have backgrounds in sustainable tourism, and some of our assessors have over the years become to understand this model more and more. We ask our assessors in general, if Allegan, where is Allegan and every other community that does fit for that matter on a map like this? But before I just say where we think you are, I think it's important to just kind of point out a little bit. We do a whole program on this model, right? It's like 6 hours long, and it's, you know, you could spend a whole semester at school talking about this probably. But in general, you see number of tourists over time, and this is time, and so stage one is the discovery, involvement, development, consolidation, stagnation, and then over time, and there's no set period of time for this to happen. This is not a 10-year cycle. This is not a 20-year cycle. I've seen some communities in other countries go through this cycle in 5 years, and we have communities in Michigan that are probably still stuck right here or maybe just right here. So over time, and then communities or destinations, I should say, can rejuvenate or stabilize. I like to think maybe a destination like Traverse City is somewhere in the stabilization phase. Key West, Florida, if you've ever been there, is probably stagnation phase. Those guys won't get any bigger, and they're probably not going to get any smaller because geographic boundaries. So I'm just trying to give examples. So we ask our assessors just where Allegan might be based on what we saw, what we experienced. And so 4 out of 5 of us felt you were somewhere, you know, kind of in this area. And involvement, this is typically where like mom and pop businesses start. There might be some local government support. There's a demand for public bathrooms, and there's some some uncertainty about development and what tourism might bring. And then stage 2 is sort of a very entrepreneurial activities happening. Stage 3 is where a lot of outside investment starts happening, and stage 4 is where all of that still continues, but then there's consolidation. That means like growth has stopped, building has stopped, and then you get into this where things are just sort of repeating cycle. Conferences in the off season, summertime visitors in the summertime. So most of us felt you guys have a lot of momentum. You may have hit your peak for now. Again, I said this isn't just a 5-year cycle. This can take 30 years for destinations to go from 0 to 5, and it can happen and relatively quickly. And so I'm not sure who said this. I think this might be you, Garrett, or maybe it was me, because this is a pretty specific response. But beginning to develop your infrastructure and attractions that cater to a wider visitor audience. So this is really key, right? Visitors and attractions. Whoever said that's likely saying that you're in the development phase for sure, somewhere in there. But there's still a lack of adequate lodging and unique dining options, although that's debatable in some places. But to go to a next stage is probably going to require additional outside investment at some point. What that looks like, no idea. You guys are contained in a certain area, so growth is probably only so big. But so with that, we are at 7 o'clock, good timing. So we're about to take a break. There's donuts, there's cider, and more importantly, or equally important, is that there are easels next to those cider and donuts. Asking you, if you want to participate, what your strengths, what you think Allegan's strengths are, and what you think Allegan's challenges are. And so we're going to take 10 minutes. It's 5 to 7 right now, 4 to 7, and we're going to come back at the break, and we're going to talk about, real briefly, what we think your strengths are, what we think your challenges are. We're going to ask people in the audience to just give an example. We don't have a great deal of time to have a debate or do some visioning sessions. I wish we did. Maybe we'll come back at a later time with the city and do such a thing. But just, we want to hear a few ideas from people after the break on what you think strengths and challenges are. And then we're going to dive into, Garrett's going to share all of this from our perspective, opportunities. And then there will be time for Q&A. So now it's 3 to 7. So let's come back in, let's just say, 7:10. That should be all right, right? 7:10, so you got about 15 minutes or so. So get some donuts, some cider. If you want to add to the strengths and challenges, everything you put on paper is going to the city. So it's to your benefit, it's to their benefit. How it gets used, I'm sure we'll take some time figuring out. So we'll see you in now 13 minutes.
There we go. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a chance to get some refreshments, use the restroom. We're going to get settled back in here. So as Andy said, I'm going to go over kind of the post-visit portion of the assessment. So talking through kind of our views after having a chance to think a little bit about our experiences here in Allegan, and diving kind of into some of the strengths, challenges, and opportunities that we saw here for your community. And I hope you had a chance to possibly put down some of your own strengths and challenges for the community in the other room. I had a chance to survey some of what folks were writing and some interesting things. So maybe we'll hear some of that from the group here as we go through this. So we're going to start with the strengths. So does anybody, we do want to kind of crowdsource here. Did anybody have anything that comes to mind when you think about strengths in your community? Either things that maybe you saw people write on the boards in there, or that you yourself wrote, or maybe having a chance to look at this and thinking if there's anything that stands out to you, or those sorts of things. So anything coming to mind for anybody they want to shout out? Yeah. Hastings, yeah.
Okay, so we're like within striking distance. If you wanted to stay in Allegan, we had no hotels which were worse. You can stay in Allegan, and within 30 minutes to 40 minutes, you can hit any of these communities, which are great tourist areas.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I don't know if people could hear that or not, but just specifically Allegan's location in proximity to some more populous tourism destinations like Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Hastings, the Lakeshore. So kind of that hub and spoke model where you could come visit Allegan, stay here, and take day trips and have a chance to see some other surrounding communities. Also as a place to draw tourists from too. You've got those population areas that kind of surround Allegan and are close by and easy access to the community. Anyone else have any thoughts? Yeah, in the back there. Yep, that's you. Yep. Good progressive support from the city. Yeah, a very active and supportive city manager and other city leaders that are definitely involved in wanting to see the city grow and wanting to attract more visitors to the city. Yeah. Any other comments? Strengths? Yeah. Yeah, so a variety of scales of venues. You've got the fairgrounds that can kind of bring in larger acts or musical acts or shows or events. This is a beautiful facility that can bring in a certain scale event, like a Tom Petty cover band. It's perfect. Then you've got the outdoor areas as well, where you can hold special events. So yeah, great assets in this community for sure for special events. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It still has all of its historic architecture, most of it, and a lot of people feel that that is a true asset in this town. They come in here and they say, oh my God, this town is just gorgeous. You just walk around here and it's just beautiful to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. You mentioned the unique architecture and the fact that there's still some of that historical facades of the buildings through downtown, and that hasn't really been modernized or 80ized. Kind of in the 80s and 90s, a lot of communities were doing that for sure. So yeah, some great unique architecture. Really noticed that as well as we were visiting the community. So I'll just go through. Anyone else have anything they want to mention? Yeah. Yeah, so some great, in addition to the city management and the city, progressive city folks, we have some great nonprofits and community organizations that are helping support that from their end too. So yeah, and businesses as well. So yeah, we definitely, and we notice some of those things as well, but some of those things too about, how involved the city is or some of these nonprofits, those aren't things that are as easy for us to assess or to notice. So it's good to hear, and I noticed that on some of the challenges and strengths that were listed on the other room, that some of the things are things that you might only know if you're really involved in the community and kind of embedded within that community. So we definitely did notice the unique location and distinct character of the place, whether that was the architecture, being here in a place where a river kind of runs through and there's an actual island located within the community and the city itself. So we really noticed a lot of the natural amenities, the parks, the musical events that happened on the riverfront area. You do have that close proximity to the lakeshore, as well as some of the other major metropolitan areas in West Michigan, like Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. We love the riverfront focused development. Great to see all of that. And Andy mentioned, how great, all of our assessors agreed that riverfront area was really great and had some great amenities from the public restrooms and the sunscreen dispensers, which I didn't even notice, but probably could have used while I was here. Just the variety of activities and things that were going on from those special events and community-focused events. The angles of the streets and kind of the uniqueness of the downtown and how kind of downtown kind of runs together. Some of folks thought that was a strength. Did mention the historical buildings. The fact that you do have 2 breweries for a small town, we love our breweries here in Michigan, so that's definitely a draw for folks to come visit. We did notice that, there was community involvement, an active and aware public sector, so some of the things folks have mentioned. We noticed, like Andy said, some of our assessors were from that land use side and placemaking background, so they were really noticing a lot of those community placemaking things that maybe an average visitor wouldn't really notice, but they would appreciate. We really saw the effort that's kind of gone into some of the city beautification and landscaping. We noticed some vibrant murals throughout here at Allegan, things that you think the city might, yeah, in the back there. Okay, so speed limit kind of through on the main drag as you kind of, rather than people turning off to go into downtown? You just keep going right through. Yeah, definitely. And the kind of setup of the main streets that you don't really go through downtown when you're kind of coming through Allegan, if you're on coming from, is it 40 that comes from 131? And then, so yeah, kind of that orientation of the streets through downtown. Yeah. Yeah. So that traffic, kind of how that traffic moves through the city. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so kind of some pre-existing perceptions of the community, maybe that aren't accurate anymore, but that's kind of how people have viewed or kind of continue to view the community. Yeah, so some image repair maybe especially with some of the folks from Grand Rapids, maybe from Kalamazoo, that they travel between those 2 places, but they don't get off 131 and kind of see what's in between. Yeah.
Then maybe some of But that doesn't necessarily mean the city of Allegan.
Right.
There's areas around Allegan, in Allegan, that have a problem. But we all just get lumped into Allegan.
Right. Yeah.
Combating that is a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something rural communities face across the state of Michigan and across the country, for sure. Anything else that anyone wants to mention? Challenges that you see? Yeah. Yeah, so telling kind of a different side of maybe the history of your community, you know, indigenous folks, natives that were living here before it was settled, and kind of what that history looks like. Yeah, and other minority groups. That's a really, really great point. We've seen that. We've echoed those similar points in other communities where we've traveled or where we've assessed as well. So, all right, perfect. I'm going to jump into some of the challenges that we had. And then we'll talk through some opportunities that we saw as well. So getting people to stop, that was one of the challenges that we saw first, you know, right off the top, was that kind of people have to make an extra turn to get into the downtown area. If they're coming kind of off 131, you kind of swoop down through and go around, or you kind of go around this way or out that way. You know, and really trying to leverage all that slogan of all roads lead to Allegan. So getting those roads to actually lead to the downtown rather than just kind of around. There is significant competition from some of those larger areas as far as attracting visitors. So Allegan obviously is competing with some of the lakeshore communities. It's competing with Grand Rapids. It's competing with Kalamazoo. So while it is in close proximity to those, it's also, you know, in competition with those places for, you know, for visitors and kind of where visitors might spend their time if they're in West Michigan. Encouraging visitors year-round. So a lot of the activities that we saw, obviously we were here in the summer, so that's what we saw was going on. But you know, a lot of the activities around the river and those sorts of things in the riverfront are focused on summer visitors. But people travel, people visit, you know, communities across Michigan all year round. So you know, what are the options for kind of enhancing those assets that you already have to continue to attract folks during the winter, fall, spring months? Enhancing some of the trails in the area. So as Andy mentioned, you know, we were out, or I went out to the bike trail. I didn't actually ride, but I visited just because I kind of wanted to see what the trail looked like, what the signage looked like, those sorts of things. I was out at a park a little bit outside of town. I think it's Paul Lake. What's the name of that park? I can never remember what it's. Something Lake Park. Yeah, exactly. And there was some I found some hiking trails out there that I explored, but there was just kind of a lack of trail signage to know. At one point, I'm walking on this trail. I'm like, I don't know if this is still the trail or not the trail. I don't know if I'm going the right direction. Does this loop back around? So kind of those sorts of things. Like, there's some assets there, but it's, you know, people. Speaking for myself as somebody who loves to get out and hike or mountain bike or those sorts of things, recreate outside, having as much information and trail signage, you know, really makes you feel safe, especially if it's the first time that you're visiting a place and you're not really familiar with where the trail goes and that sort of thing. So that trail signage is really, really important. So we think you know, we want to make sure that, you know, there's obviously, we've noticed a lot of momentum here, and kind of sustaining that momentum and keeping moving forward can definitely be a challenge for small communities. And then, I don't know if you call it an issue, but kind of thinking what to do with that Mill District area, what to do with kind of some of the other areas of the community that that might be able to be enhanced or to be, you know, turned into something new or you know, built more placemaking around. So we're going to go through some of the kind of additional ideas that we kind of came up with based off of those strengths of the community, the challenges you may be facing. We thought there's definitely some opportunities out there that you can take advantage of. So again, none of this stuff is that we just talked about as criticism. It's just kind of what we saw and what we experienced, and we hope this, you know, provides some either reinforcement to some of the ideas, the things that you're already looking to do in your community, you know, or potentially provides you with some new opportunities. So with these downtown maps that are great, that show you what the map looks like, if you don't know exactly where you are related to the rest of the map, it's kind of hard to wayfind related to that. So having a little dot at each of those signs when you're standing in front of that map that says this is where you are currently, you can kind of help you wayfind a little bit. So that's just, little things like that are things kind of we picked up on. And we did mention the repainting of some of the Welcome to Downtown Allegan signs. People mentioned more recycling options from downtown. So a lot of us are, as Andy mentioned, are kind of the millennial, Gen X group, a little on the younger side, but that's really important to us as we're traveling, is having opportunities to recycle or making sure that we're not just throwing things away because there's not a recycling can there. So we want to be as sustainable and living as green as possible while we're traveling as well. Highlighting some of the parking in downtown to kind of increase that walkability aspect. Obviously more accommodation options in the downtown area was something that's already been mentioned. Continuing to increase the beautification and just kind of do some of that TLC work that Andy mentioned before, and we were talking about what the downtown looked like. Continue to engage local artists through public art. We love that type of placemaking for communities. This is some of the stuff we did notice from that art standpoint. That was kind of a really cool mural that shows some of the history, and maybe it's not showing all of the history of the community, and that could provide an opportunity too to provide some additional interpretation related to that mural, related to what maybe history hasn't been included in that mural, and kind of maybe provide an additional opportunity to juxtapose that with the other local history that isn't depicted there. We noticed that there are some outdoor wall spaces that maybe haven't been utilized, that could be utilized for murals or for additional wayfinding areas. We're really big on signs as part of our work with this. We really like to see people being able to know where they're going. As somebody who's a first-time visitor, it can be confusing even navigating a small area. So the more signage, the more opportunities to let people know that they're on the right path to places is really important. Expanding upon some of these really cool aspects that we saw right along the riverfront. So the kind of rain garden there was really cool, and the signage related to that. Loved seeing the raised beds right outside there, right kind of in a public space where people could hear and see that story. It's, like I said, local food systems work is kind of the other side of the work that I do. So really appreciated seeing that, and just lifting that up and then enhancing and continuing to kind of build some of that environmental sustainability stuff into your placemaking, and as well as kind of telling the story of what you're doing related to that as well. We definitely appreciated some of these open signs that were out to let us know, where that business is open or not. Because like Andy said, sometimes we were here at different times of day or different days of the week, and things may or may not have been open. So kind of continuing to use that and making sure that the stores that are using those are using them when they're actually open versus just having it out all the time, sort of thing. So I think we came across a couple of those as well. Just continuing to highlight that riverfront area in any kind of promotional things you're doing, including those images and maps, and yeah, just also we thought, showing some more activity in the riverfront area in some of those images would be good to kind of highlight that activity and the vibrantness of those spaces. Downtown, that's part of a regional land conservancy. That looks like it's going to be really cool with really cool hiking trails. So just kind of making sure that you're marketing those things and those opportunities. We have a really big mountain biking community in West Michigan. I don't know a lot of people that come and use the Allegan Bike Trail. I follow a couple Facebook groups of mountain bikers, and they're like, all these different trails, and they're always taking pictures of all the trails they're at. I don't see many pictures of the Allegan Bike Trail, but I come visit it if they just knew more about it, or if it was maybe upkept a little bit better, or things like that. At a gear rental library downtown, that's a cool idea. Place to rent some of those outdoor recreation opportunity or equipment. Again, just kind of connecting those trails, local business sponsorships, connecting with businesses and that mountain bike community with downtown, that trail with downtown, would really kind of create more of a just connected outdoor recreation experience for folks. We were a little curious about the area kind of just on the island, kind of back there behind. There's like a concrete platform and like a half of a barrier, wooden barrier. We weren't 100% sure what's going on back there. Fishing? Oh, yeah. So maybe some more signage back there, just to kind of let people know like what's going on there. We thought kind of this, that area right below the dam, there's a lot of like churn in the water, and probably not the best. Like I canoe and kayak, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd really want to throw my canoe in right there or not. So just kind of some maps or just portage. Yeah. Really not. Yeah. So some more signage there would be helpful, at least kind of letting folks know, like, this is where you could or should put in, all those sorts of things. We were kind of we're not really sure what to make of this spot. Also that trail, that's kind of like a walking trail that goes back behind buildings. It's a really nice little spot, but I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to be walking back here or if I am. And thought there was an opportunity there to add some more signage, add some more information, maybe some interpretation, some local history, that sort of thing. And just kind of let folks know, okay, here's where you turn to get to this business or that sort of thing. So, and I think I'm turning it back over to you for this, right? Yeah.
So the big pie in the sky, this was kind of my idea. I hope Garrett liked it, but obviously a huge opportunity, right? You guys probably been wrestling for decades on what to do with that, and I've talked to some people that have a business here. Hopefully they're in the room tonight, and said, there's been investors, and then they've tried this and tried that, and then there's flooding. But hopefully something's here to stay in the future. But our big idea, once I cut that corner and walked across there, was turn this into, I want to say that this is Michigan's first inland island inland. So I'm suggesting that you guys take it to the next level and call it, and play off Gilligan's Island and call it Welcome to Allegan's Island, and market it as that, and really take it off. Maybe it's been considered before, but I'm showing my age, I'm sure, by putting this up here, but at least people have probably heard of it at some point in their life. But, it's looking at this whole piece of property and it being an island, inland island, I thought it was pretty catchy to perhaps run with something like that, but do as you wish. So those are our suggestions, our summary of suggestions. There's certainly a mountain of data, and we try to hit on all the high points and then weave in some of the smaller suggestions and strengths and weaknesses and so forth. So final thoughts. 4 out of the 5 of us would recommend Allegan to friends and family, and 4 out of 5 of us felt that we would visit Allegan again on a pleasure trip in the future. I don't know why the one person, whoever it was, would not come back and recommend it, but 4 out of 5, 80% is still pretty good. So that concludes the results. So we did the fit assessment. We're sharing the results with you tonight, and then we have a few minutes here for questions and answers. And so Joel or Parker from the city are going to join us. We can't answer any questions about Allegan's future. Garrett and I can answer questions about the assessment, what we did. To that effect, if you have any questions about sort of what the city might do with these results, Joel is here, and I think Parker's here to answer those questions. So now's the time to pose questions. I'm going to suggest that, Garrett, if you don't mind, we run this microphone to anybody with questions, and I'll take this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If I can turn.
Thank you. Okay, so speaking more so to the point about welcomeness and inclusivity, or safety, I should say, welcomeness and safety. Were any of your assessors from a minority group? Because Allegan has, like I said, a very whitewashed history, and a lot of people consider this a very white community, as it is.
You want to take that one?
Yeah. So we did not have, I think all of our assessors were Caucasian, or what identify as white.
All identified as Caucasian.
Yeah.
So that's one area. Sorry, that's one area where the assessment, our assessors, that's the gap that we usually have, is that. So occasionally my wife will come with me, who's an immigrant, Southeast Asian immigrant, and she and our mixed daughter will come with us sometimes on assessments, but I've gotten tired of using my family to move the needle. So, but occasionally our assessors, we have multiracial, but this one in particular, we were all Caucasian. Good question.
And we recognize the limitations that presents for communities that are looking for additional perspectives. So definitely, say that in the evaluation if that's something you're looking for.
Good question. Anybody else? No other questions? Nothing for the city? You know what? Now's your time to hit up Joel or Parker. Okay. Well, we got off easy then. So we'll jump forward. And if you have any questions, just raise your hand. So the question I'm going to go back to that. Joel, at no pressure, but do you want to share with the folks here what you guys intend in general to do with the results of this? Now's your time to do that. Okay, let me share a few more slides here. People are probably wondering, like, well, what have communities done with this program? And we could talk, and many times Garrett and I do for hours at conferences about the impacts of this, not only on infrastructure and built environment, but diversity, equity, and inclusion, and investment, and redesign, and placemaking and stuff. But, these are the questions that we like to leave with the community in particular. What role do you play as an individual in this? This program is designed to increase capacity. What that means is a lot of times residents that attend these forums like you are here tonight usually want to get involved when they see the results of things like this, and the cities and the community leadership teams are in the position to be available and find ways for people to get involved. Some are better at it than others. So give that some thought. If there's something here that struck you as interesting you want to be a part of, encourage you for sure to reach out to anybody on that community leadership team and find a way to do that. So I'm surprised we didn't get this question. Where have you done this before? Usually that's something that people want to know right away. And so I'm going to tell you, even though nobody's asked, but we've started in 2016, and you can see up until the end of 2019, we pretty much were all over the state, various partnerships and with state agencies and so forth. We took 2 years off, of course, or a year and a half in the basement. And so we did Cassopolis earlier this year, which is in Cass County. We did Grayling up in the center of the state last year. Cassopolis was last year. They got their results this year. Allegan, of course, is today. And then we're sharing the results with Hart, Michigan at the end of October. And so we'll be doing another 2 communities next year and then another 2 in 2024. So that's kind of where we've gone. And we've got a mountain of results over a 3-year period. Some of those results are on what grants communities have gone after to increase the arts and humanities. There is some data in there on several communities that have engaged minority business owners into their public planning process, which they've never considered before. We've seen a whole slew of websites get redesigned. This document, if you want to know, I encourage you to scan that if you want to. I can leave it up there. I will also send you, everybody that registered tonight, a link to this, so don't feel pressured to have to figure out your smartphone right now and how to scan that. But that will give you quite a bit of information of what these communities over those 3-year periods have done as a result of capturing first-time visitor perspectives from their perspective, right? We don't take credit for everything, but we make sure that the community, what they tell us they're doing as a result of this program is something that they can contribute to the program from participating in it. So that's available. Testimonials, though, over the years that we've seen, great ideas to help develop the future, fresh eyes give credibility, program highlighted recreational assets, brought items to the forefront from an unbiased source, as unbiased as we can be, identified several pathways to organize around. So it's really worked for a lot of communities. Time will tell how it works for you guys. Part of the process is that I follow up with the city of Allegan and that whole community leadership team at a year from now to find out what they've done and what perhaps they are doing to make changes if they choose to do so. But overall, communities are using FIT to build capacity, to strengthen their image. Many have updated their master recreation plans, spawned new ideas and leadership in a variety of ways, getting youth at the table to consider the future of the community from a youth perspective. Again, engaging various entrepreneurs in the community that might be from minority backgrounds or long-term residents that may have not been engaged for decades. Grant applications, looking at rural development and leveraging dollars from the local community foundations to build trails out, to mark trails, to increase their accessibility to disabled people. We're seeing a whole slew of things. You guys are a few steps ahead of some other communities around the state, such as your ADA accessibility for kayak launches and perhaps some of your business programs for local entrepreneurs and stuff of that sort. But so that's what, that is the end. And please, please, please use your smartphone right now and scan that and take our survey. We do have hard copies. We have some. If you want a hard copy to fill out, we can give you one, but it looks like a lot of phones are raised right now, and their data would go right into our data collection system, and we'll get it quickly. So while you're doing that, if you want a hard copy, please raise your hand. Don't be shy about it. But all right, we've got one. Thank you. So yeah, please take that.
We don't know what the next steps are in regards to this process. We're very, very thankful that, you know, Andy and Garrett from Michigan State University Extension's here. We're very thankful to the MEDC that funded this. We got the executive summary report last week. We are still digesting it. Everyone in the audience, you saw the report presentation for the first time, 33 seconds ago. So hopefully you're going to be digesting it. One of the things that resonated with me, and if you know me, I am very much a loyal person, and I'm a ride or die person for the city I work for and live in. So when I hear community work, I'm probably not going to be the champion leading that charge. That's why when we put this FIT team together, we had the Chamber of Commerce represented, and Aaron Steinman, the executive director of the Chamber, is here this evening. We had Pamela Armstrong from the library. She is ill, she couldn't be here, but we have some library board members here. They represent more than the city, they represent the larger community. And we have James Antoine, the superintendent. He represents the school district, which represents an organization much larger than the city. That's the one thing I heard that the community is going to have to figure out. This, how does the community create, a story to make sure people feel welcomed and they know how to get into here? I think we have a great city council. We have an amazing city staff that's going to address some of the city, stuff we need to work on. But there's this larger community presence that is going to take something. I don't know what that something is. But, we made sure from the onset that we had some community agencies represented to hopefully take on that role for us. We have all of your emails. You're going to get a couple emails from us that say, hey, if you want to continue this discussion, we're going to have a few more meetings down the road. A lot of the stuff they mentioned, we have plans in the work already for it. I mean, our downtown streetscape is fully funded. Construction starts next April. New roads, new sidewalks, new trees, new benches, new lamp posts, everything. Recycling, we're putting in recycling stations as part of our downtown streetscape. So we're going to be able to check off some quick wins for us on that. Entrances into downtown. I'm a true believer that the traffic study we did and the work we did with MDOT, and when that roundabout goes in at M89, M40, and Hubbard, I mean, people are just going to get cycled in to the downtown off Hubbard. It's not going to be this drive around Allegan anymore, which I agree. I've only been here 6.5 years or 5.5 years. It is a drive around. Hopefully that's going to pull people in. The redesign of the 2nd Street Bridge was to pull people in. Lack of a variety of accommodations. Everybody that's been awake for the past 3 years knows that's been very high on my priority. Bringing in a 3 or 4 star hotel which is a different kind of accommodation. Some people, the budget host is perfect for them. Some people, bed and breakfast is perfect for them. Some people like the safety feel of warm fuzzies of a 3-star hotel with your breakfast in the morning that you get as you walk out. So stay tuned. If you want to be involved, you can reach out to us. We have various city committees with a few vacancies on them. The first Tuesday of every month at 8 a.m., we meet at Mugshots with people who care about downtown. It's called a Downtown Lowdown. They listen to Parker talk for 10, 15 minutes, and then the businesses and the people that care about downtown share their ideas of what's going on. Everybody's invited. We meet at the upper room at Mugshots. So grab a coffee from, Mugshots and come on up. Other than that, thank you again for coming out tonight. I am loyal. The Cleveland Browns play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who we hate, in about 30 minutes. So I'm hoping to wrap this up and get home and have some food and watch the Browns win. We have questions now. Yeah, Joe.
Has the city purchased the lot that's across from the old bank building on 89?
The house that burned.
We have not purchased that. So that is at the southeast corner of 2nd Street and M89. There's a house that's burnt. There's a brown shack. There's a brown structure, I mean, is the word I meant to use. Correct.
So, we talk about inviting people into the city. If the city would acquire that property and be able to put in a nice welcome to Allegan.
Sure. Yep. I have a plan for a nice park there right now on my desk. So there's a vision, but the city does not own the property to institute said vision. Other questions? We can stay here to 10:30 if you want to. I can record football games too, and I have a phone as well. So I want to answer questions if there's questions. Yeah. So status of hotel. I am going to use a phrase I use often. Nothing worth having comes without a fight. We are working our butts off with Lakewood Construction or One Enterprise. 101, sorry about that, it's not One Enterprise. I apologize. 101 Brady is the LLC that purchased it from CL. They have the development rights. They have till the end of this year to either begin construction or have city council approve of a new design for that hotel. I can't share all the inside baseball with you, but things are looking positive. Does that answer your question enough? We're working on it. Personally, I'm not going to stop fighting to get that type of hotel in our downtown. I mentioned the next band tomorrow night, Tom Petty. We've lost out probably on a dozen bands that wanted to perform in here, except part of their rider agreement is they needed overnight accommodations. And when we shared the bed and breakfast and the one on M40, M89 leading out of town, that does not check their boxes overnight accommodations. So that's where we are with that. Yes? Sure. So, yeah. So the vote that was on the ballot was to sell a portion or to sell what's called Mahan Park, a city-owned park, to the developer and relocate Mahan Park to 2nd Street on the other side of that vacant area. That is what was voted down, was the sale of city-owned park land. There is confusion on that, I understand. Any other questions? It can be about development. It can be about the Browns' weak zone defense that allowed the Jets to score 13 points in 1 minute and 43 seconds last Sunday. So that's part of the digesting part. In addition to just seeing the presentation now 3 minutes and 33 seconds ago, there's a lot of words. Those are going to go back to City Hall. Michaela, who's our city clerk, is going to type those up for us. She just learned that right now. So she'll type those up. We'll probably post them or share them via email. I can see Parker's taking them down right now, getting them ready. So that will be the process for that. We'll probably share them. We started a monthly newsletter. We might put that into our monthly newsletter for October. I just got to go through there and make sure, grammar's correct and stuff. I try to make sure everything is worded the correct, appropriately. And I'm horrible at grammar, so Michaela is also going to do this. She'll make sure my grammar is correct as well. Yes. Oh, you're good.
Does the city own the Positively Allegan website?
Yeah, so sure. So the city owns Positively Allegan. That's a nonprofit that was started in conjunction with the city of Allegan. The DDA, I believe, is part of it. And it is a 501c3 standalone nonprofit. The website was created several years ago. And then when we revamped our city website, we pulled everything under one roof. I know exactly what they're talking about. The link that was bad is when Revise, which doesn't own, but they host our website, they did a DNS upgrade, and it shaved the number off ours, so we had to go and fix that. 2 years ago, we transitioned from using the word Positively Allegan to Downtown Allegan, because Positively Allegan was really focused on events in downtown, and we said, let's just call it what it is. It's Downtown Allegan. Other questions? So again, thank you very much for coming out this evening. Most of you know where I live. You know where I work. You know what establishments I frequent in the downtown. I understand, I'm available. So before, during, after, on the weekends, you can always grab my arm and have a conversation. We do have some council members here. I'm not going to call them out because I don't want to embarrass them right now, but the city council is also equally available to listen to residents and community members on ideas. And Matt Adams is reminding me tomorrow night, the Insiders, I call it the Tom Petty Tribute Band. We saw them at the Pyramid Scheme in Grand Rapids 3 years ago. You close your eyes, it's Tom Petty on the stage. So if you like Tom Petty music, you're going to enjoy a great concert. Thank you, everyone.